So, 3, 2, 1.
Hey. Hello.
Alright.
Essa?
And we are back.
Oh.
So, Stump, are you ready to play some Crash Bandicoot 2?
Yep, I'm ready.
Alright, just a reminder for everybody else that we are raising donations for the actual NASA. So if you want to donate towards any of the bid wars or the goals, go right ahead. It can be $1, it can be 50. But for now, we're just going to have some Crash Bandicoot 2. So whenever you're ready, Stump, just count me in.
Alright, Alright, well, this is going to be Crash Bandicoot 2, any percent no-go. The time's actually going to start after I skip the initial cutscene, so well, let's get through that to the gameplay. Alright, time will be starting in about 3, 2, 1, start time.
Alright, and we are off.
Alright, this is Crash 2, any percent no game over abuse. The reason for the no game over abuse part is to make this category be the most similar to the what one might call the intended any percent, because without game over abuse we have to get through all of the 25 levels and get their crystals and defeat the 5 bosses after each 5 levels. So I'm in the first level, Turtle Woods, and well, the main thing you'll probably be noticing is that I am doing I'm chaining slides and spins together. This is called neutral slide spinning, or NSSing. When I slide, if I let go of the directional button but then spin off of it, I'm able to keep the slide into the speed, into the spin, and that is the fastest way to move across the ground. But you cannot do this when you're in the invincibility form from having 3 masks, so that's why I actually did not get the 3rd mask box there. So here we're in Snowgo, we're just getting through the ice parts, and that's a glitch high jump that I did there. When you do a slide jump and you spin immediately after leaving the ground, you go a small bit higher than you normally would, and this will allow making some unintended jumps, like not having to use the spring box there. But I'm actually jumping a little bit higher than I normally would otherwise, because I am actually playing this on the PAL version, where they slightly overcompensated for the reduced frame rate in the movement parameters. Causing some jumps, like the ones out of the pits in the level after this, to be makeable when they wouldn't be on NTSC. Now, this is Hang 8, one of the levels with the waterboard. For those sections, it's pretty much a case of just boosting until you get to the end of the part. So there's a glitch high to skip the side path there. Not bothering with that checkpoint because it's out of the way. Yeah, it's not really a problem that we lose that mask. And this gem here is this level's alternate gem. It happened because it was there because I got to the end of the level before that in-game timer ran out. And without NSSing, you just barely make it. But getting that gem would waste time when Crash throws it up into the air in the warp room, and it moves into its place above the level door, so we skipped that. So here's the pits. It superficially resembles Turtle Woods. But we don't need that mask box. And I'm going to go down the left path here because that's where the crystal is. And crystals are the entire reason we're entering these levels. But 100% would go down this path first because that exclamation point box there would fill in some outline boxes that are on the right side, and you would have to backtrack down there. So you can just barely jump from the bottom of these pits up to the... Oops. Up to the ground behind them. I'm using a glitch high jump for that. Some of these are possible on NTSC, but many are not. But all of them are possible with the extra jump height that you get on PAL. And then our last level of this warp room is going to be Crash Dash. This one I'm actually going to be moving towards the camera, running away from some boulders. So the issue with running this level is remembering where the pits are so you can avoid them. And where these electric gates are. And 100% we'd actually have to hesitate a little bit there to make sure that those nitros remain on screen, because they don't count unless they explode on screen. Now we're getting some speed boost pads. Those are a little bit better than a slide. So you want to hit them. There's our 5th crystal, so that'll bring us to our first boss, Ripperoo. Ripperoo jumps around the arena and lays TNTs and nitros and then becomes vulnerable. It's the same pattern every single time, so this fight's basically an auto-scroller. That means there's some downtime if there's anything to mention. I always like how the way that the safe spots are known in advance allows you to let Crash into the idle animation during the boss fight. But now we're through Ripperoo and ready for the next set of 5 levels. starting with the next snow level. This is a little bit trickier than Snow Go is. Especially some of the jumps I gotta make here. And those porcupine enemies... Without the speed of NSSing, they would get their spikes out before you get to them, and would hurt you. But with the speed from NSSing, you get to them and kill them with your attack before they become harmful. Also, there was one of those log crushers just after a pit, and a few times I've gone for a tight cycle grab there and got hit just barely by the beginning of it and then proceeded to fall into the pit. That's a little bit of a combo that can happen in that level. And Air Crash is going to be another one of the orderboard levels. One of the things will be... Can I squeeze through? We had 2 masts, we'll be fine. We can skip that platform thanks to the glitch high jump. And these platforms will be coming up right at that time. And since we got the masts, we can just go forward here and not have to wait for those mines. Now that nitro I just passed is a nitro that you only ever actually see in any percent categories. Because 100% will have exited this level out the death route and will have hit the nitro switch before it gets here going for the box gem. And this is going to be Barrett, one of the 2 bear levels that we'll see in the run. These levels are pretty much auto-scrollers. I mean, by charge jumping and zigzagging you can get a little bit of extra speed, but you're continuously going forwards. This makes these levels a pain on 100%, because you gotta make sure you get all the boxes. Oh! These are, the bear levels are very bad levels to die on due to the fixed speed of them. It also has this tendency to happen when you're close to the next checkpoint. That sometimes you just miss a jump. This game actually does have a tendency to occasionally drop inputs. And when that happens, you just have to deal with whatever happens. This level is another boulder chase. Now, those mines don't actually do any damage, but their stunning effect, if we hadn't gotten ahead of the boulder through NSSing, would likely result in death for a casual player. Now, the electric gates here actually in this level have a slight difference from the ones in the remaining chase level that we'll be going through, which is Unbearable, level 15 in the next warp room. Oh, and there is... What happened there is sometimes if a nitro explodes at the same time that you hit that boost pad, the boost pad can, for some reason, send you the wrong direction. But now we're through there. Gotta make sure we actually get the crystal. And we're on the last boulder segment of this level. This actually has a large number of boost pads because they put some time-consuming boxes to break, like those widely spaced boxes that also are including a body slam box. But because of that, combine that with an SSing and you can almost just about get the boulder completely off the screen there. And that brings us to level 10, the Eel Deal. These take place in sewers. And every so often there are those chambers that electric eels will electrify in a cycle. Hopefully the cycles will line up nicely for us. And we go down the left path here for the crystal, but then go back and down the right path because that's where the level exit is. I'm going to intentionally take a hit from the nitro because otherwise I would be taking a hit from the electricity, and that has a much longer animation. And I had to wait for that. Yeah, those hanging grids are a bit slow, but they're just a fact of life in this type of level. Hopefully in the level Hanging Out in the fourth warp room, I'll be able to get third mask form for those grids. That'll allow moving much faster across them for that. But here we'll be at the second boss, the Komodo brothers. One sends the other spinning around. You can manipulate the bouncing through your movement. And soon I'll stop and become vulnerable and you can spin him into the other. And then there's some knife throwing. I was slightly off with my manipulation of the third phase there. Normally the moving brother gets into the state where he's trying to settle down to a place to stop before the third knife gets thrown. But the third knife got thrown, so I hadn't advanced the fight state as quickly as I could have. Right, here we have plant food. Another waterboard level. This one also has a timer for a gem at the end, just like Hang 8 did. thanks to the combination of the glitch high jump and the extra jump height on PAL, we don't really have to worry too much about the placement of those platforms. Not having a mask brought through there means we gotta watch carefully for that pair of mines moving left and right after the pair of whirlpools. You can avoid getting hit there, but it's very tricky. And that would be even trickier. There's that yellow gem, which we are going to not get, because that would waste time in the warp room, because all the yellow gem would give us is access to a side path in this level that we don't need to take because this is any percent. So sooner or later, this is another sewer level. Now these enemies, the torch expands farther than it looks. You can get around the side of some of them, but that's deep dark magic. Losing that mask is a slight issue. It means that, well, unless I manage to take this mask through there, which I did not, especially since I didn't get the checkpoint, I think I'm gonna just spin this away the safe way rather than going for the gap. If I had a mask, I would have tried to jump through the gap created from spinning just one of the scrubber enemies through it. Just like before, the left path has a crystal in it, and then we gotta backtrack down it. And since we can't keep masks into the next level, I'm gonna use the masks to not have to wait for these blowtorch enemies. And then we'll reach the next bear level. Yeah, this bear level has a little bit more to it than Barrett did. So I definitely consider this the harder of the two in this category. Although the reverse is definitely true in 100% due to some very annoying arrangements of boxes that are in Barrett. Yeah, some of those pairs of lab assistants lifting and dropping those metal boxes are in places that are difficult to deal with in when you're trying to charge jump all over the place. There we are through that, and over the what I believe is intended to be the entrance through which you discover the warp world. But since this is any percent, we will not be doing that. Instead, we'll move on to Road to Ruin. This is one of 2 ruin levels in the run. Now I hit that rat forward and it sniped the TNTs and broke the mask box under, just behind it. Glitch high jump gets us over those streams of fire from the statues. There, I got a glitch low jump when I wanted a glitch high jump. So I hit the fire, but coming out of here with 1 less mask than normal is not a big deal because Unbearable is a chase level, although you're going to be chased by bears instead of boulders, and so you lose your masks from it. Now, you may have seen these electric barriers in Crash Crush also, but there's a critical difference between the ones in this level and the ones in Crash Crush, and that is that the ones here are slightly lower, so while the sliding part of an NSS will make it under, the spinning part will not. So even though in Crash Crush we could NSS under those barriers as though they weren't there, that is not true in this level, and we have to make sure that we slide all the way under them. Having to make sure I line up to not die and lose lots of time. And then this last one, we escape the big bear on the little bear. For some reason on the bear, hitting the sides of the electric barriers breaks them without hurting you. But that'll do it for the Crystals of Warp Room 3, where we will fight Tiny, the primary source of RNG in this run. Yeah, Tiny chases you around these platforms. Occasionally some of them drop and you gotta get him to jump over them. And then more drop. And you gotta do this 3 times. But which ones drop are random. So you gotta hope that they're in places that you can use. Yeah, that's a perfect phase 2. Now let's see about phase 3. In phase 3, only one platform initially falls. And then only one platform remains after Tiny has jumped over the missing one. So you gotta really hope that that platform that drops is not in a corner. Because you can't really send Tiny over them without crazy jumps. Now this warp room, we're gonna do this one out of order. And the reason for that is that Hanging Out is a sewer level that has a mask box before the hanging grid, but no mask boxes before it. And we want to enter third mask form off of that mask box. That means we need to bring 2 masks into the level. So we do this level first to hopefully bring both masks that it contains out of it. Not going for that. Because I really want you to see what the third mask form for hanging out. Looks like... Well, I thought I was going to take a hit in that area, but thankfully we did not. Now, those exploding fruits that those plants spit out, if you're spinning as you're even when you're inside one of the explosion hitboxes, they won't hurt you. Now, it is possible to glitch high jump over these things, but in the name of making sure you get to see hanging out third mask form, I'm not going to do that. Also, this reddish ground here, that scenery, well, that's going to cost me the masks, so I'm going to have to do a different level before hanging out to hopefully regain the 2 masks that I was trying to bring out of this level. That's not too big of a deal. Anyway, this red ground, if you spin on it while you're walking or stationary, you actually burrow under it. And this is intended to be used to hide from the bees. But if you're sliding, that doesn't happen and you can NSS on it like normal. So my normal level order would be to do hanging out level 16 after this, but instead I'm going to do Ruination, hoping to bring 2 masks out of it. This is the second Ruin level. One of the common features of it is that it has similar box arrangements to the to things that were in the first one, except that some of the boxes are replaced with nitros. So that's something to watch out for when doing this in 100%. Yeah, there's a mask up here that I'm gonna grab. Yeah, that exclamation point box that fills in those outlines. There's an arrangement that looks just like that in Road to Ruin, where it's all regular boxes that have some good stuff in them. But that set of boxes, of outline boxes, all turn into nitros in this level. I would have YOLO jumped. Well, I lost the masks anyway. Yeah, on the death cycle, yeah, that enemy you have to slide into will be a little bit farther forward and will explode the TNT as it passes. So you gotta watch out for the explosion when you're on the death cycle. Yeah, since I wasn't able to bring 2 masks out of here, I'm gonna do the level Cold Hard Crash. There's a place where I would mask abuse in the death route to not have to deal with the somewhat annoying positioning of nitros. But since I have to bring my masks out of here for hanging out, I am gonna not do that. Now, a particularly notable feature of this level is that it has a death route that is an alternate path to the main part of the level, but both drop you after them at the in the final section of the level without any way to get back. But both of them have boxes. That makes this level extremely annoying in casual 100%. But we have the box duplication glitch that we can use to not have to deal with that in 100% runs. Alright, we kept our 2 masks through the death route. The reason we do the death route is that it is faster than the regular path, but you have to get to it without dying. Also, there's that gem at the end, which I didn't avoid. So we'll lose a little bit of time in the warp room from that. But now that we have brought 2 masks out of a level into the warp room, we can go do hanging out. So the mask box is still past a little bit of hanging grid that you have to do without third mask form. I am not going for that. Alright, here we go. Now I'm just gonna walk. Actually, I'm gonna crawl here. The reason is that third mask form makes you go very fast across these hanging grids, but it prevents you from doing the neutral slide spin. So generally it's a thing to be avoided. But when you are in third mask form, it does, among the other strange things that it does to the particular speeds of other movement, it causes crawling to, for some reason, be very fast. So that's why for that longer section with the TNTs, I crawled across it. And thus we reach the last level of Warp Room 4, Behaving. This is just like Digging It, except that the beehives are larger and spawn more bees that move faster. So there's a lot more emphasis on, well, at least when casually playing this level, on the ground that you can burrow under to hide from the bees. But we won't be needing to use any of that, because NSSing is more than enough to outrun the bees. Now there's an example of a spin as I was landing on that platform to not be damaged by the explosion of the explosive fruit. That flower had a bit of a delayed... there is that section that I still burrow underground for, but that's mainly to give the nitros a chance to explode. Ideally, when I spin when the bees scatter from being spun from burrowing under there, one of them will hit the nitro switch. That's not what happened there, though. But now that we have all 5 crystals of Warp Room 4, we reach our next boss fight, Engine. each of the hands takes 10 hits with the fruit to break. Engine moves a lot slower on PAL. They didn't compensate for the frame rate change. But you need that time anyway to get all of the necessary hits in. Now each of the shoulders takes 5 hits. But the shoulders you really want to get both at once, because if you break only one of them, then he immediately stops the cycle that he was in, and you need to wait for him to open again.
Master Cortex will be very displeased with your insistence. Prepare to suffer his wrath.
Yeah, Engine does move faster in NTSC, but that makes him harder to hit and more difficult to get all of the necessary hits in order to one-cycle him. So we're in the final warp room. And this is one of the 2 piston levels that are in it. These levels are all about cycles. They're the cycles of the pistons, where these things are moving, whether those spark things have their arms up or down. I didn't let go of the slide button for long enough after that first hit. So I crouched in place instead of sliding again. Yeah, the next level, which it's going to be great to be bringing 2 masks into, is Rocket, one of the 2 jetpack levels. I guess the Cortex fight could count as a 3rd one. But the notable thing about these levels is that they're a few places I'm going to reach a lab assistant floating in the occasionally electrifying his hands to be spun through one of those things. And because you normally would get hit by him if you tried to go past, they made the plasma grid at the end harmless. But on PAL, and only on PAL, if you deliver a hit to the enemy and gun it forward, you get past. Yet another reason that for Crash 2, PAL is the fastest version. And this level is Night Fight. As you can see, it is in the dark, and these fireflies give me light for a limited time to navigate the level. Under casual conditions, The fireflies are timed so that each one will run out just as you get to the next one, as long as you keep moving and don't stop. But thanks to the extra speed from NSSing, we can bring one firefly well past the next one. Other than that, it's mainly a case of knowing where the pits are. Now, those enemies there that have harmful necks, those can be annoying to deal with in this due to needing to be on the slide phase of the neutral slide spin when you first make contact with them. And since I had extra masks, I just dealt with whatever happened. This takes us to level 24, Pack Attack. Another jetpack level. And another place where we'll be seeing the magic of PAL in action. It's nice that they provided a mask in this. I'm gonna grab that checkpoint just because I don't have masks. Because the final section of this can be a little tricky to do without slowing down. But I got it. The wires lined up well. Those wires that are disconnected and randomly floating around are probably the most annoying part of the jetpack levels. But only one level remains, and that is going to be Spaced Out, the other piston level. Has these floating platforms whose edges are for some reason harmful. I don't know why that is the case, but it is. Yeah, we can glitch high jump up there. Get over that. 3D jump around that. Hit the shield guy into the nitros. Yeah, that's a bit of a needle to thread, that jump after the checkpoint. Now those places where I was going under to narrow, low overhangs with that switch of the shrink ray in between. You gotta make sure you're not too close to them when you slide in. Otherwise you slide under the far overhang and you have to do the really slow crawling animation. But now that we have all 25 crystals, it is time for the most anticlimactic boss fight ever. As long as you don't hit any of the obstacles, you'll hit them in these 3 places every time. And that is Crash 2 any percent no-go.
Alright, and I split a little bit late, but the time I got was 48:30.
Nice.
What do you suppose happened to Cortex? And what about the Cortex Vortex? It's still up there.
And we are a little bit ahead of schedule, so if it's cool with you, we can let these credits just play out.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of interesting runs coming up.
Our credits just great.
Yeah, this is nice music too.
And just look at all these names. Oh, wait. Neo Cortex is voiced by Clancy Brown?
Yep.
Yeah, Clancy Brown is Mr. Crab. Mr. Crab is Neo Cortex. Illuminati confirmed.
Yep. Oh, that's Crash 2 any percent no-go with credits.
With credit.
Yep.
Alright.
Well, thanks for having this run. I'm looking forward to watching the other runs. And also, tomorrow evening, I'm actually doing another run. Super Metroid GT Classic. I'm looking forward to that too.
Yeah, should be exciting stuff. Thanks for the run very much.
You're
Stick
welcome.
around, folk. We are just going to be going to intermission, and then we will have some ukulele for you right up. So stick around.